The saint, untouchable by anyone, is confronted by a man who says things could have been different if she had just agreed to have some fun with him. She could have been free to move around. As he unbuckles his belt, he threatens to take his anger out on the maidservants if she resists. The maid clings to her, apologizing, but she turns away. He grabs her face, forcing her to look at him, and warns her not to keep looking away or he'll harm her eyes. She calls him scum. He admits his mistake, then covers her mouth, telling her it's her mouth that should stay closed, not her eyes. He thanks her for pointing out his mistake. The saint is seen as humanity's hope, able to identify and stop demons. The temple has long sought to uncover demons hidden among humans, which is why saints possess extraordinary strength, setting them apart from ordinary humans who aim to eradicate demons. 3 influential families are selected at random and presented to the saint. These families happen to be the families of demons. Only the saints have the power to monitor and purify the powers of demons. On the sacred day, when divinity is at stake, they are to be offered on the altar to seal the gates of hell. This is the mission of the saints. She will marry the head of whichever family is chosen. When it's time for her to make her choice, she picks Duke Orobos. The Orobos family doesn't seem like a demon family, but the Duke turns out to be far more evil. She tries to escape, but he always finds her in his dreadful fortress. He asks if she's been enjoying herself since he took her in, and now it's time for him to enjoy his own pleasure. Later, it's revealed with overwhelming evidence that the Duke is a demon, and an order is given for his execution. All his hidden actions are exposed, and he is now known as a demon. The other women ask her what's going on. The men inform him that, because he's the head of one of the 3 major Duke families, they'll give him time to put his house in order before his judgment is carried out. He knows this is what happens to anyone who does evil. The saint is told that she is now free. The Duke thinks he'll escape his evil deeds, but that's not the case here. He screams, insisting that no one can take away what belongs to him. He didn't let her go without a fight, and in the end, she doesn't survive. The saint wakes up a second time to find men around her, confused. They ask what she's doing, and gradually she comes to her senses. The time comes for her to make a choice again. The men tell her to focus. This is a critical decision, and they're waiting for her to choose. She looks at them, still confused, unsure about what the right choice is. In her second life, the saint chooses the Ubar family, believing Duke Ubar to be kind, which makes her past memories of the Orobos family fade. But suddenly, his true nature changes, and it is revealed that Duke Ubar is also a demon worshipper. She tries to escape, even injuring her feet badly in the process. She runs to the sacred temple and bangs on the door, screaming for help. A man opens the door and upon seeing her asks who she is. She tells him that Duke Ubar is trying to become a demon. He asks if she is truly the saint, and upon realizing it, says this cannot be happening again. He wonders why she would run away like this, noting that it's now obvious she no longer possesses the strength of the saints. The only way for redemption is to present the remnants of the demons and offer her as a sacrifice to plead for mercy. She is killed, and her blood flows onto the altar. As her vision fades, she witnesses the gates of hell open, and figures begin to emerge. At the front of them is a man with verdant eyes, Duke Baine, a demon. By the time she understands what's happening, her life is already slipping away. She wakes up in the present day, hearing voices around her. She now knows where the true demon family is. The priests around her only seem to want to offer her as a sacrifice, and the people around her are hard to distinguish from demons as they disguise themselves as humans. But she knows the truth lies in Baine's family. Choosing him is like walking into hell willingly, but if she must choose between the 3 men, she now knows 2 of them are directly from hell. She would rather choose the one who is their master. She hands them a photo of Baine, declaring that he is the family she chooses. The priests gasp in surprise. As she stands before them, the priest orders that the demon disguised as a human step forward to face the punishment he deserves. They claim they seek to be led to paradise, but tell her she will never reach heaven. At Baine's family home, Ronov reports to Duke Baine about the day's events. He also mentions a demon suffering from severe mana depletion, but Baine stops him, asking if he doesn't feel like a guest might be arriving. The others look confused, and Ronov asks what he means. Baine responds that he senses someone is coming. Outside, a carriage is seen approaching, and the saint sits inside, her face partially covered by a veil. Baine tells the others that he is sure a guest is arriving. The Baine family is often suspected of being a demon family, and they humbly accept these suspicions. They are determined to prove their innocence, believing that one day the saintess will recognize their true nature. They are ready to serve her with everything they have. As she walks through the temple, one of the priests approaches her, calling her attention. He speaks about a holy war, a sacred mission, and begs her to promise that she will capture the holy demons. She remains silent for a moment, grateful that her expression is hidden behind her veil. She assures him that she will, and he smiles, thanking her. God will lead us to heaven, she murmurs, thinking to herself. Long ago, the demons who were defeated gathered in the human world, plotting a comeback. The Baine family chose to live in a dark land, becoming the guardians of the place where monsters appeared. They have contributed greatly to the empire, but no one could have guessed they would be suspected of being demons. The Duke's castle is crawling with demons, though, and the saintess feels a chill of fear. She knows she is the one who can identify the true demon family, but she worries that this family might try to eliminate her before she can accuse them. She doesn't want to die again. She doesn't know how she ended up back in this life. But one thing is certain. She doesn't want to die again. She sits with her arms crossed, thinking of how she might survive this time. The thought of staying alive consumes her, and she wonders if there's a way to make the demons need her. A thought strikes her. She is the only human who can prove they aren't demons. While the Baine family could easily eliminate her, doing so would only confirm the suspicions about their true nature. So, she decides to act unaware of their demon status, waiting for the right moment to negotiate. Instead of choosing a family, she considers escaping the temple's clutches. This might be her best option. She looks out the carriage window and sees the place guarded by the Baine family, knowing they are already close. A few men approach the priest, asking if this is the carriage with the saintess. The priest confirms it, then asks who they are. They introduce themselves as knights of the Baine family, sent by Duke Baine to escort her. They want to take over from the priest, but he objects, saying the saintess must not come in contact with the secular world until the wedding. She stands up and walks toward the men, feeling that the secular world is where she's headed. They try to stop her, but she tells them it would be impolite to refuse such a kind gesture from Duke Baine. The priest warns that she's not supposed to have contact with them yet. She replies that it's just a suspicion they are demons, so they shouldn't start monitoring them just yet. They can't believe the saintess's words. She tells them it's not up to them to prove anything. It's her job to prove it. Standing with the knights, ready to go with them, one of the knights extends his hand, offering to escort her. She smiles and takes his hand, a soft growl coming from behind her veil. She tells the priests to return to the temple and that she will contact them later. With no other option, they agree. She turns to the knight and tells him to take care of her from now on, and he promises he will. They soon arrive at the family's house, and she tries to calm herself. She looks out the door and sees Ronov. He welcomes her, but she's certain there's no one there. She hadn't seen him earlier. She wonders if this is one of the demon's magical tricks. She returns his greeting, and he introduces himself as Ronov, the butler of the Baine castle. Judging by his looks, he doesn't seem like a typical butler, and she feels something's off. The butlers from the other two families were dressed more formally, in suits, so she wonders if it's just how the Baine family operates. She realizes she's been staring at him for a while from inside the carriage. He hasn't opened the door, and she feels like he might expect her to get out on her own. It's not a big deal, so she opens the door herself. As she's about to step out, one of the knights offers to help, and she takes his hand as she gets out of the carriage. She feels like they're not demons, as she suspected, but actually humans. The knights lead her in the right direction. They wonder what it's like for her to be living her third life. A few hours earlier, Ronov informs Duke Baine that the saintess's carriage is approaching. Meanwhile, a demon named Veled von Vin, with a unique ability to see the end of anything, senses his own end. He knows his fate is to lose his magic and turn into a monster, meeting a beast-like end. He has always refused to die like that, which has given him victory in the past. His sword, filled with the certainty of life, is enough to conquer demons within. He welcomes the idea of the saintess staying with them. Meanwhile, the lady wonders how she got to choose this particular path. Duke Baine wonders if she is truly a saintess. Ronov reads out a report mentioning that the gates of hell are slowly closing. Baine reflects that the magic generated from humans can no longer sustain the demons. He thinks that if the gates close, they will be cut off from the demons inside hell. He considers using the negative emotions of humans, fear, betrayal, despair, to open the gates of hell again on the same day the saintess opens the gates of heaven. He plans to make humanity hopeless and take everything they have, but he knows deep down that the saintess will never allow that to happen, so he decides to move on for now. Ronov asks if the Duke will go himself, and Baine replies that he is the only one who can. He dresses as one of his knights and bids Ronov farewell. Her voice echoes in his ears as he hears her say that Duke Baine is a kind man, that he sent her a carriage and knights to personally welcome her, not knowing that he himself is disguised as one of the knights. He thinks about her past, first suffocating, then being sacrificed, and the third time he can't figure out yet. He wonders if his magic is insufficient to know how she will end up this time. He remembers her saying she trusts him to guide her, and he accepted her request. She has been the wife of the House of Orobos, then the wife of the House of Ubar, and now in her present life, knowing fully that Baine is a demon, she still chooses to be here. This is hard for him to understand. Did she come to gather evidence to prove that he's a demon? But there's no need for that, because the moment she tells the priest, they would have ended him right away. Her face flashes through his mind again, and her sweet voice rings in his ears. She sounds so innocent, with no sign of hatred for demons. He keeps wondering as he walks toward her. She wants to know what's going on around her, but he tells her not to look around too much if she plans to stay. She feels his wavering replies might mean he's asking if she's going to report them soon and leave. She asks him to protect her, and he assures her everything will be fine soon. She watches as he rides away, reasoning that in a place full of monsters they must be prepared for any attack. It's not that she's not afraid of monsters, but she feels protected, maybe because of his voice. Now she can relax a bit. She takes a deep breath, but wonders why they hunt monsters when they possess the same power. They soon arrive at the family estate, and Ronov shows her the way. Her heart pounds as she realizes she's already inside. She can't afford to make any mistakes now. She remembers when she first saw the corpse of a monster during the ride here. Panic sets in, but she tries to calm herself, reminding herself that they are all humans, not demons. As he leads her upstairs, she asks if the reception room is on the second floor. From her past experiences, she knows the reception room is usually on the first floor. He replies that it's actually on the third floor. She stares at him in disbelief. He turns to look at her, smirking, and tells her that soon it will be moved to the first floor. It's hard for her to understand how they can just move a reception room like it's merely a vase. She tells him the third floor is a bit inconvenient for receiving guests. Of course, this is a demon family, so moving the reception room like that is possible. But she mustn't let them know about her suspicions. He tells her to go in. She knows she has to keep things natural. Inside, she is served tea that's as red as blood. As she raises her cup, she wonders how tea could be this red. He tells her to go ahead and drink it, and she smiles, saying she knows she'll enjoy it. He stares at her as she drinks. The others discuss that. Finally, the saintess is in the house of Baine. Although it's hard to believe, she really has arrived. They ask if her presence means war is approaching. Ronov walks to meet the others and informs them that the saintess is now at the Baine house. A lady asks if she really decided to come, and a guy tells him that all the preparations are in place, meaning they are ready for war. Ronov tells them to put away their weapons. There's not going to be a war. The others look confused, and he explains that the Archduke ordered that the saintess should be treated as a guest. They repeat his words in surprise. He goes on to describe the different types of guests. Those that need to be persuaded, those you can get what you want from with just a little threat, and those that have to be made unalive. A guy excitedly replies that those are the kinds of guests he likes. Ronov yells at him, saying she's a real guest, and the Duke also commanded that they show no signs of preparing for war. They ask if they're supposed to act normal, and he nods. Another guy asks about the quality of a noble family, since they're supposed to act like one. The lady suggests a butler, and the thought of Haim comes to mind, as he fits the role perfectly, but he's nowhere to be found. A bird tells them that Haim's been at the battlefield for over an hour now. Ronov asks who else can play the role of a butler, and since they can't come to a conclusion, he decides to take on the role himself. A guy says he should be the one since he's the most presentable, and another guy teases Ronov, asking if he even knows how to make a cup of tea. Ronov thinks it's easy. All he has to do is boil water. The others laugh at him, saying that's an insult to the drink itself. He replies that it's just a drink, so there's nothing to worry about. The others suggest he get a cup of coffee instead, but he hopes they're not referring to Varys, since just a few days ago, Varys gave His Highness some strange food and got sent packing. They always disappoint when you need them most, so he, who has experience with drinks, will be the one to do the job. He orders the others to clean up and stop the ones who are peeping. He orders that the magic cannon be cleaned as well. A guy approaches him, asking if they should keep the demon head, as it would give a good horror vibe. Ronov looks at him in disbelief, and with a mix of anger, kicks the demon head hard, shouting, "Do you not understand we have a guest?" The guy cries over his beloved proof of years of struggle. Ronov asks him if a demon head is something you use to welcome a guest, and he's clearly clueless about what welcoming a guest actually means. Ronov glares at him, frustrated that in the whole Baine family, where cleaning is done with magic, the only ones who understand human culture are himself and His Highness. He's disappointed to be surrounded by clowns. Meanwhile, he watches as the Saintess drinks the tea, hoping that they look like a normal family and that he didn't miss anything. It took him by surprise when she asked if the reception wasn't supposed to be on the first floor, as it usually is. He hoped nothing would go wrong from here on out. He asked her if she liked the tea. She tried to hide her disgust, replying that the tea was peculiar, but inside she really wanted to ask why it tasted so salty. He told her to drink as much as she wanted, but she wasn't about to drink any more salty water. He took a sip and said it was really nice. How could he drink it so easily? It was so hot that steam was coming out of his mouth. She tried to convince herself it wasn't that bad. She took a sip, but immediately coughed because it was too salty. Seeing this, he hit the table in anger, asking if there was something wrong with the tea. She replied that it had nothing to do with the tea. It was just that she was new here, and it would take time for her to get used to their customs. He then gave her a plate of cookies, thinking she'd like it. She felt relieved that something sweet was coming her way and appreciated his efforts. He told her to have as many as she liked, but as she tried to chew one, she choked because it was way too spicy. He asked if everything was okay. She thought to herself, "These guys really suck at pretending they're not devils." Meanwhile, as Baine walked by, someone informed him that the Saintess wanted to see him. He smiled, wondering what she had to say to him. Baine wondered what she could possibly want to say, especially knowing that this place was full of devils. She came looking for the leader instead of being afraid of him. The last time he saw her, she seemed kind of nervous. He looked at his reflection in a mirror, but it changed to her face before the mirror shattered right in front of him. Helvis asked if he was okay, noticing he was bleeding from one of his eyes. His future seemed uncertain, one where he would lose his temper and become a monster. He cried out to Helvis that his future had changed. Helvis, not knowing what to say, asked if he would be all right. In his vision, there wasn't even an end. Either he'd disappear into the distant future, or something else would happen. Helvis then asked what should be done about the Saintess. Even though she didn't show it, they both knew that a war could break out at any moment. Baine ordered that all preparations for war be withdrawn. Helvis questioned him, and Baine replied that he was looking forward to something. Maybe the future could be different. Before he could finish, he realized that the magical power, key to the demon's survival, would be prioritized for the strongest demon. So, if he turned into a monster, it meant the others would collapse due to the lack of magical power. However, everything changed when the Saintess arrived at the castle. He tries to warn him that if things continue like this, everyone will soon figure out their true identity. Right now, Ronov is attending to the Saintess, and he feels she might have sensed something unusual as well. He tells him to leave things as they are since the Saintess already knows their true identity. He stands there with his mouth wide open, unable to believe what His Highness is saying. He doesn't want to fight, but he does want to know why she came. He asks what he means by that, and Baine replies that he should just keep acting like a normal human. It doesn't matter if they feel something is off. The more upset they get, the more pressure they'll feel to reveal their thoughts. The Saintess walks around in her robes, wondering if the demons can pull off a noble wedding. She remembers Ronov saying they were fully prepared when he showed her to her room. As she enters the hall, she sees a bloody banner and thinks to herself, "For sure, these guys suck at being nobles." Ronov notices her staring at the banner and quickly tries to make up something. He suggests they take a walk in the garden, and she agrees. But that's not the only strange thing. She notices a human gardener and wonders if there will be a problem with the wedding. He answers his own question, saying there will be no problem, then notices her and calls out to greet her. She sees another man through the window, talking to himself about something not being ripe yet. She asks him what he's talking about. He greets her and then struggles to find the right words. He says, "What I mean is that this thing..." She thought he was talking about humans preparing meals, but it sounds like a mystery to her. She never expected it would be this challenging to act unaware of their status. She stops when she discovers something interesting. They have both night and day. Sometimes they light up the place, and other times they turn off the lights. During the day, they light up the mansion. They've artificially created the day. She smiles and touches the artificial light. Suddenly, someone asks if the light amazes her. She turns and sees the knights who protected her on the way here. She tells him that it's amazing how they created artificial light in a place full of darkness. She wonders if her reply was too pleasant, but remembers being greeted earlier by a human holding a knife. So she's more than happy to see his familiar face again. He replies that the day isn't made by them, but the result of gathering moonlight. The light collected during the night is used to shine during the day. This sounds interesting to her. She watches him as he takes off his helmet, and without it, his hair looks different. St. Burley looks at the knights again. His hair, originally silver, changes to a dark color the moment he removes his helmet. He tells her that most people from places with light are often afraid of the dark, but as demons, they have different kinds of abilities, so it's nothing strange. He wonders if she prefers brighter places as he expected, and asks if she's afraid. She wonders what he could mean by that, and tells him she is not afraid. He says that people often claim the night stirs strange imaginations and makes them uncomfortable. She asks herself why he thinks the night isn't comfortable, then tells him it's not. If the night were uncomfortable, people wouldn't sleep in the dark. She remembers being at the temple, which was so bright you couldn't hide any pain in the light. She tells him that not everything about the dark is bad, as it sometimes helps to hide things that should be hidden. So she doesn't dislike the dark. That's why she chose to come here. He keeps questioning her, not realizing that all she has are pictures of the three families and a little information. She feels like he's testing her. Of course, the information she was given isn't enough to fully understand a demon family, but she already knows that. She tells him that the brightness of the temple can stop a person from dreaming or having any imaginations, so she came here hoping to be able to dream and have desires, because these things come with the night. They stare at each other for a while, and he asks if what she means is how to desire or crave. She replies that it's too direct. She then demands to see the man who is her husband and asks if he is around. He replies that her husband is indeed around, and she tells him to take her to where he is. He starts coming closer to her, saying he can handle the guidance, and places his hand very close to her face. She tries to resist, but he looks straight into her eyes and tells her that he is her husband. He asks what he should call her, Saint Burley, Burley, or his wife. She wasn't expecting this. She grips her robes tightly and tells him to call her Burley. He calls her name and introduces himself as Veled von Vin. This means the knight who was with her during the ride here is indeed Duke Veled of Vin. She feels slightly relieved that he didn't turn out to be like Ubar or Orobo from her previous life. He didn't act violently, and he's not as ruthless as she thought he'd be. His men told him that she has been eager to see him ever since she arrived. He asks if the temple feels stuffy, curious about how someone at the top might do things differently. She says she wants to give her marriage more meaning than just joining a demon family, although she knows the priest would not approve. He asks what kind of meaning she's after, and she replies that it's one that concerns only the two of them. She wants to know more about the person she's marrying, the one she'll spend the rest of her life with. They stare at each other for a moment, and he breaks the silence by saying he thought he was just a suspect. She responds that she can tell a demon when she sees one, and she can prove she's not one herself. He smiles, moving his face closer to hers, asking if she's satisfied with her soon-to-be husband. She feels his breath on her cheek. He has a lot of work to do, so he requests to leave, hoping their next conversation will be in a more private area. She's confused, wondering if he means their wedding night. He mentions he's heard she's been living as a saint and asks if she understands the matter of the night. She stares at him, unsure of what he means. Of course, the temple teaches one to control their desires, and he can tell she's followed that teaching. But since she wants to learn about desire, he kisses her hand and promises that on their wedding night he will make it a memorable experience she'll never forget. The next day, Ronov walks through the empty wedding hall with a guy. The guy asks if the emptiness of the hall reflects the temple's idea of a simplified wedding. They agree the decorations from the temple are dull. The guy comes up with an idea to decorate the hall in a way that will please the Duke. Ronov notices the saint walking around and tells the guy that he can tell from her expression she doesn't want anything changed, and they'd better not do anything that might raise suspicions that they're really demons. Burley sits alone, thinking about how it would have been nice if the Duke had come with her. The lady with her says he's busy with the monsters in his territory to avoid any disturbances during the wedding. She then presents Burley's wedding dress. Burley looks at the dress sent from the temple. It's plain, with no patterns. If she took off her veil, no one would even know it's a wedding dress. When the lady asks if she likes it, Burley quickly replies that she doesn't, but later wonders if she should have said it differently. The lady insists that she come with her, and Burley follows. The lady shows her the dress the Duke prepared for her, saying she can choose to wear it if she wants. Burley can't contain her joy when she sees the beautiful dress. She praises it, but then recalls being told at the temple that a saint should avoid dressing expensively. The voices from the temple echo in her mind. In her first life, she couldn't resist the desires of Duke Orobo and ended up attending someone else's wedding. She watches a happy couple dancing, and a thought crosses her mind. She wonders what it feels like to wear such a beautiful dress and have such a happy wedding. But now, it's happening to her. She doesn't care if the temple opposes her. Like a child doing exactly what they're told not to, she wants the gown badly. She tries to convince herself that it's not a bad thing, remembering the Duke's words, how to desire. She feels that any feeling of want, good or bad, is a desire. She imagines herself in the beautiful dress and recalls the Duke promising to make their wedding night memorable. As she stands, staring at the gown, her previous encounter with him comes to mind. The lady calls her, asking for her answer. Burley, lost in thought, replies that she will wear the dress. Later, the priest visits her and tells her she shouldn't wear the gown because of the commoners who will be attending the wedding. She tells him it's too late. as she's already made up her mind to wear the gown the Duke provided. The priest insists her focus should be on finding the demon family since they don't know which of the three families is the demon family. She asks if she will spend the rest of her life with him if he turns out not to be a demon. The priest doesn't respond, and she realizes they don't care what happens to her after they find the demon. She tells him it's her wedding and she will do whatever she wants, so he should leave. He tells her that the gods are watching over her and leaves. Once he's gone, she barges into the room where Ronov and the others are making preparations and demands that the wedding hall be extravagant. Originally, demons were humans who could use magic, but because they refused to rely on their gods, they were cursed to become demons. It's fascinating, though, that the most beloved saint has defied the gods' providence and is now living her third life. It doesn't make sense, but of course he likes it this way. He's been in this cursed body for a long time now, but it's been a while since he's felt such excitement. Even when he disguised himself as a knight to escort her here, he felt something. Since then, he can't stop thinking about her. But how can one person, who was once afraid of being unalive, burst out like that? He imagines himself dancing with her, wanting to turn all these emotions into something positive. He doesn't hold back his desires and decides to go home. When he gets home, Ronov greets him and asks how the battle with the monsters went. He says they won't be a disturbance for a while. Ronove asks about the wedding preparations, and he replies that everything is ready. He then asks about the venue, and Ronov tells him the saint ordered them to redecorate the hall and make it as charming as possible. A few days ago, they wondered if the decorations were suitable for her, only for her to change them all of a sudden. No one knows the reason behind her actions, but they don't care. They would rather not take sides with the temple. Everyone agrees and gets to work, cheerfully decorating the venue to suit the dignity of his grace. Just then, she walks in and tells them to stop. Everyone wonders why she's there. She's glad she decided to step in, because the demons clearly don't know how to decorate a wedding venue for humans. There's only one way out. She decides to decorate it herself. The others rebel, angry that a human is giving them orders, but she expects this. Since demons are governed by the law of strength, she uses her power as the soon-to-be mistress of the house, telling them that the wife of Veled von Baine should be able to decorate her own wedding. They all fall silent. Ronov tells her not to blame them, as they've been roaming the dark battlefield for so long that they might not know much about decorations. She replies that this is exactly why she decided to help them. She has no evidence that the Duke is a demon, and if he turns out not to be, it would be a problem because the real demons will still be out there. To avoid any misunderstandings, she decides to decorate the venue according to the Empire's trend. He agrees with her, and the others follow suit, agreeing to do as she says. Ronov reports all of this to His Majesty, wondering how she's so confident. It's like she knows the obedience to authority that demons have. A guy tells them that he was told by Helbus that the saint already knows they're demons, but how she knows remains a mystery. With a smile, His Grace asks if that's all that happened. Ronov is shocked. His Grace isn't even a little angry. He tells them to get going. They ask where he wants them to go, and he replies, "To the wedding, of course." The priests walk around the wedding hall, gossiping about whether both the Duke and his servants are demons. Some argue that they're all demons since they live together, and besides, they've heard that demons don't restrain their desires. They wonder if they'll be able to hide their true identities with so many eyes on them, or if the saintess might have chosen the wrong family. Meanwhile, the demons are struggling to keep their temper in check. They feel like doing something terrible, but can't, as they've been ordered to behave properly during the wedding. For demons, the leader's command always comes first, so the priests are pretty lucky they don't know what the demons are really thinking. Saint Burley stares at the holy water as the priest warns her not to misuse it. He explains how precious it is and the correct way to use it during the wedding. She must pour it on her husband's head. She agrees, but in her mind she'd much rather pour it on the priest's head than follow his instructions. A lady walks in and informs her that the ceremony is about to begin. She stands up to leave, but the priest continues, reminding her to use the holy water properly. She's so fed up, but she's relieved it's finally time for the wedding. As she walks down the aisle in her beautiful gown, she sees the priest's panicked expression and feels a bit of comfort. Still, she knows she must pour the holy water on Baine. In her first life, she poured the holy water on her husband's face, and she did it again in her second life. Since they were human, nothing happened. But now, knowing Baine is a demon, she knows that once the water touches him, he'll experience great pain. Smoke will rise from his body, and everyone will see he's truly a demon, leading to an instant war. The priest announces that it's time for the blessings, since the bride is a saintess. Before they begin, she asks that the podium be adjusted so they won't be too close to the crowd. Namberius rebels at her request to change the layout, not hiding his dislike for her. She replies that she wants Baine's family to have a good view of the wedding, so they can see everything properly. As his wife, she knows he can't harm or disobey her, so he agrees and asks how she wants it done. After that, they take the cap off the bottle and drink from it. He wonders what she's up to, as do the other demons, who watch closely. She lets the bottle fall to the ground, holds his face, and kisses him. But as she does, she places a finger between their lips to make sure he doesn't come into contact with the holy water. The ritual of the bride pouring holy water on the groom is a human marriage custom. While other demons might not be aware of this sequence, Baine knows it well. The holy water repels those who go against the will of the gods, and even Baine wouldn't be immune to its effects. The only reason he hasn't avoided it is because, on their wedding night, he glimpsed the future, and the outcome didn't change. There will be no war today. Still, he wonders how things will unfold and patiently waits to see how she'll act. She apologizes, but he pulls her face close to his and kisses her again. He never knew she could provoke his desire this much. Their bodies lock together as they kiss. But how did it come to this? She was only pretending to kiss him. She tries to stop him, worried that there's still some holy water in her mouth, but he holds her and kisses her deeply. Both the priest and the demons stare at them, unsure of what's happening. After a while, Ronov leads the demons away, and the priest, feeling awkward, joins in the cheers as the couple continues. After a few minutes, they finally pull apart. The Duke then welcomes her to the house of Baine. After the wedding, someone comes in to inform her that the banquet has been cancelled. She asks who made the decision. She believes a wedding isn't just about walking down the aisle. While the temple's plan is to expose Baine, suspected to be a demon, the Baine family, one of the founding families of the empire with a long history of loyalty, deserves respect. Skipping the banquet is an insult to them. The priest claims it's because she's tired, but she knows it's just an excuse. They're likely trying to avoid the banquet because they're afraid of a demon being present. Even though their duty is to fight demons, they're acting cowardly, only concerned with their own safety. She asks what he plans to do about it. She decides to take revenge on the priest for calling off the banquet in her name without her consent. The man is shocked to hear this. She tells him that they're using her name as an excuse to escape because they're afraid of demons. Many of them don't behave as priests should. If they're going to congratulate her falsely, it would be better if they didn't come at all. She asks for the Duke's opinion. Ronov asks if the banquet is really not going to happen, and the man tells him that His Grace has ordered that they do as the wife says. So they move on with their preparations. Another person asks if they're clearing everything away already. The man then asks what a banquet is, but he doesn't answer. Instead, he wonders why the banquet is canceled. Skipping it feels like an insult to the entire family, but since His Grace insists, he dares not oppose it. He feels the temple priests are rude for using the saint's name to cover up their actions when she didn't even know about it. The man repeats his question, and he tells him to remove the decorations. He asks if something is wrong. He can see that the saint has been very understanding, even though she has evidence that Baine is a demon. Everyone was expecting a war to break out during the wedding, especially with General Nobellus' hot temper, but nothing happened. He replies that everything is fine and to start clearing the hall. Even though the wedding was peaceful, he noticed what the saint did. She drank the holy water and swallowed it before kissing his grace, clearly showing her defiance toward the temple. She openly disagreed with them, using her name to cancel the banquet, which shows her intentions are different from theirs. So what is her true intention? Does his grace know about all this? He wonders what the real reason is for her coming to the Baine family. The priests come to greet and bless her before leaving, and she warmly responds. She's glad they're finally leaving, and that there's no proof of Baine being a demon. She's relieved everything went well. His grace walks in, calling her Beryl von Baine, her new name. He asks if she likes it, and of course, now the time has come for her to become the Duchess of Baine. She replies that she likes it, but her mind flashes back to the wedding, especially the kiss they shared. This is the first time they've seen each other since then, and she wonders how he stays so calm. When he kissed her, there was still a bit of holy water in her mouth, so he must have tasted it. He calls her name, and she seems lost in thought. He apologizes for his actions. She snaps back to reality and tells him she's sorry. He suggests they get going, and she agrees. She looks at the carriage. Although it's black, it's the most luxurious one she's ever seen. He helps her in, holding her hand, and adds that the inside of the carriage is pure white, since she's used to the temple's white carriages. She remembers when she was a little girl, during winter, when she first entered the temple. The thick snow made her want to play with it, and she loved leaving footprints in the snow. But then she overheard the priests scolding her, saying that she was too immature and that something had to be done. They harshly told her never to play in the snow because it was sacred. Since then, she's feared touching anything completely white. She was taught that purity must remain pure, and she was forced to become pure herself. Those memories make her feel uncomfortable. He offers to prepare another carriage if she's not comfortable with this one. She tells him it's a bit too white and neat. Because of what she said, he decides to make it rougher, asking if that's better. He jokes that it's usually easier to dishevel something. He asks if she's okay with his simple and unexpected method. She replies that it's better now and appreciates his effort. He thanks her with a smile. At home, a lady helps her style her hair and asks if she likes it. She replies that she does, and the lady leaves. A few days later, she learns that according to their customs, all maids will wear veils for the first week after the wedding. She asks why, and His Grace explains that it's a way of giving the new hostess time to adjust, and also signals that the newlyweds' first week should not be observed by anyone. She wonders if this means their first night will last a week. He adds that the couple will spend 7 days together, with no interference from the servants, giving them the whole mansion to themselves. Her eyes widen as she hears this. He also tells her about the process of selecting the hostess's attendant. Now, it happens to be their wedding night. Her hair is beautifully done, and she's wearing a lovely gown. She sits alone in the room, and soon His Grace knocks at the door, asking for permission to come in. She invites him in, wondering if tonight will hurt a lot. Although Saint Beryl knows what couples typically do at night, she's never done it herself. She didn't with Duke Oribos, who showed strange lust after her, or with Duke Ubar, who only saw her as a sacrifice. She never spent a night with them because of how disgusting they were. But Duke Baine is different. Just like the moment she stepped into the snow and played with it, he makes her feel that kind of excitement. She wonders if she's out of her mind. He enters the room, and as he moves closer, he senses the tension rising in her. She tells him it's not what he thinks. He smiles and promises not to touch her if she doesn't want him to. She blushes and tells him she's fine with it. He kisses her legs tenderly and asks if she's okay with it. She remains quiet, and he takes it as a yes, continuing with his actions. He asks for her permission, gets closer to her face, and unties her hair. They smile at each other as he gently places her on the bed. He asks for her permission to take off her clothes. Originally, he never planned on getting married, but he never expected to meet someone like her. She asks if he's uncomfortable being accused of being a demon. He replies that it surprised him, but it also gives him a chance to prove his innocence. He asks why she would agree to marry a demon just to identify one. Doesn't that seem risky? She replies that as long as she's in the temple, she has no choice but to do as they say. But she feels that he will be better than the other dukes, and certainly better than the priests. He asks if she chose him because he's the best option, but deep down she knows that she just wants to survive this time around. After all, he's glad to be a good choice. Then he asks if the temple teaches one to suppress all desires, even the smallest ones. She looks at him without saying anything, and he kisses her forehead, telling her that she's free from the temple's practices now that she's in Baine. She asks what he's doing, and he replies that she'll soon find out the difference between him and the others. She tells him to wait, but he asks her to close her eyes. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and ensure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time.